God says, that is very critical. Jesus is begging for you proper now, with tears in his eyes and love in his voice. This is not for all people. That is for you, simplest you, chosen out of millions, because something dangerous, heartbreaking, and irreversible is about to show up to you at the 10th of July until you listen now. This message is not only a divine caution, it is a spiritual lifeline. And if you ignore it, you might damage in ways you by no means idea had been possible. Your soul is standing at the brink of something massive, and the heavens are thundering as a way to open your heart earlier than it's too late. Jesus sees what you cannot see. He sees the betrayal being planned behind your back, the secrets and techniques that are being hidden underneath well-mannered smiles, and the false love being proven to you it's covering a risky truth. There's someone who has spoken your call in a room full of people who do no longer desire you nicely. On July 10th, a communication will happen, a selection might be made at the back of your again, so one can have an effect on your lifestyle so deeply, your destiny may additionally by no means appearance the equal again if you do not act now. It is why this message came to you like a divine fireplace. Because God says you need to be protected from what is coming. Your call has been marked in a spiritual e-book, not by means of human beings, but through angels and archangels who are tracking your every step, guarding you from the traps being silently located through someone very close to you. Jesus is crying due to the fact this person, whom you may love or believe, is operating with a person else, and their plan is a cut-off date, July 10th. A date that is not always, a date that may become a day of deliverance if you open your eyes nowadays. In case you do not, you may cry so much, no longer simply because of the pain, but due to the fact the betrayal will experience like a person stabbed you and smiled. Jesus wants to save you that heartbreak. He's pleading on your attention. Right now, heaven is shaking. Archangel Michael has drawn his sword, no longer in anger, however in urgency. He's circling your call, your strength, your future, due to the fact he sees someone sending bad phrases, jealousy, and dark intentions toward you. These energies are not random. They're directed. A person you idea was innocent has turned into someone deeply green with envy, and they are doing something religious against you. They went to someone. They paid someone. They said your call, and they asked in your downfall. July 10th became the date chosen. However, God says, no weapon fashioned against you shall prosper, if you concentrate now. Jesus is begging because he already took your ache at the cross. He knows how deep your wounds cross, even those you never talk approximately. However, he is also watching as your religion is being tested right now. Some days you sense strong. Other days, you sense like you are invisible to anyone, inclusive of God. However, you are not invisible. You're being watched extra intently than you may consider. This isn't always pretty much warning you. It's about waking you up. Due to the fact heaven has plans for you. But hell is attempting to intercept the one's plans via a person who has lied to you, smiled at you, hugged you. And nevertheless, they've a plan in movement in your pain. July 10th is a crossroads. a divine clock is ticking. And Jesus says, if you do not spiritually realign yourself before then, you will miss something that was meant to trade your complete life. There's an possibility in order to bypass you via. There's a meeting in an effort to show up without your information. There is a connection, a divine soulmate, a person who's crying out for you in silence. But you will pass over them if you stay linked to the incorrect human beings. One among your biggest blockages proper now's a dating that isn't always what it appears. And God has been showing you symptoms, however you maintain ignoring them due to the fact your heart is too kind. But kindness, if no longer paired with know-how, can be a doorway for catastrophe. That is why Jesus is begging now. He is begging in order to see. Because he does not want you to be left weeping at the night time of July 10th, questioning why no one warned you. That is your caution. That is the voice of heaven. God says someone is gambling together with your destiny. They may be speaking negative words over your call and even laughing with others about something you relied on them with. They're plotting something, and their actions are about to be revealed. But you should prepare yourself. You ought to pray. You have to rapid. You need to spiritually protect yourself now. Because God says, there may be another reality. Someone else, a person effective, someone divinely linked to you, has been searching for you. They have been praying for you without even knowing your call. They felt your ache. They desires approximately you. And they are supposed to bless you with something foremost. However, this non-secular block round you is maintaining your advantages from locating you. It is like a cloud is covering your call. You've been hidden too long. But no longer anymore. July 10th became alleged to be a religious assassination. However, God is about to turn the script. If you listen, Jesus is interceding. Even as you read this, the angels are shifting through dimensions to reach your power. They're whispering to your soul, telling you to come domestic, to give up, to awaken. Due to the fact the enemy is aware of your call. And that enemy was your friend. Someone is showing faux love, and the minute your back is grew to become, they are feeding lies approximately you to others. Their aim is to ruin your reputation and cut you off out of your benefits. However, they underestimated something, your desire. You are divinely preferred. That is why Jesus is preventing for you. It's why Archangel Michael has been traveling your goals or displaying you symbols. Have you been seeing 1111 333 feathers coins chicken observing you? Those are not coincidences. These are divine alarms. And these days heaven rings the loudest one but, this message. Because something explosive is ready to take place in your life. It could be a miracle or a disaster, depending on what you do next. God says, forestall letting your beyond trauma convince you that you deserve pain. You don't. You have been by no means supposed to live a life of betrayal, confusion, and delay. But your heart has trusted the incorrect people for too long. And now, the identical human beings you referred to as own family, lover, or pal are those silently operating towards you. However, here's the miracle, they might not prevail. because you're being rescued. This message is the rope pulling you out of the entice before it is too late. Jesus is begging if you want to pray, to separate from that one character he's been warning you approximately. Your spirit is aware of who they may be. You felt tired on every occasion you talked to them. You felt confusion after being around them. It is no longer random. It truly is your spirit reacting to poison. But you've been too emotionally attached to stroll away. Till now, God says if you don't walk away by July 10th, they'll walk away first, and they will depart in the back of destruction. They may take something valuable with them. Something you did not even know became connected to them. And the pain will hit you like a storm. But it doesn't ought to take place that manner. You may alternate it. Right now, in case you pick mild over confusion, if you pick out truth over fake peace, if you pick to sooner or later consider that Jesus isn't warning you to scare you, he is cautioning you to save you. Your destiny remains waiting. However, the route you're on is making you within the wrong path. It is time to turn around, to delete that quantity, to give up that connection, to forestall replying to that man or woman who maintains mendacity to you, to interrupt the curse that has kept you caught in a cycle of heartbreak and poverty. There's something massive being organized for you, a blessing with a purpose to trade your deal with, your budget, your relationships, your confidence, your whole identity. But earlier than the blessing comes, the betrayal should be uncovered. And that is what will appear around the 10th of July. You may see a person's true colors. You will overhear something. You will accidentally locate something. You may be taken aback. But God says, don't cry, rejoice. Due to the fact that exposure is your release. Jesus is begging that allows you to understand this. If you allow go of what's hurting you, you will sooner or later make space for what's recovering you. And he has been sending healers into your existence, but you've been too distracted through fake connections to be aware of them. The person that is supposed to like you, surely love you, is closer than you observed. However, they can't input to area it really is already occupied by means of lies. Loose yourself before July 10th. Or you'll omit your chance. And the ache might be unbearable. And Jesus will still love you, however he's going to weep for what you misplaced. This isn't a message of worry. This is a message of fire. Divine hearth. Heavenly intervention. Prophetic caution. Urgent deliverance. You are being known as out of darkness, out of confusion, out of put off. You're being referred to as into readability, peace, and a new chapter. But the preference is yours. Jesus can knock. However simplest, you can open the door. Someone is jealous of your light. They're looking to dim it. However, it is too past due. You've been marked by way of God. You're chosen. And the enemy's plans will fail. But you ought to no longer cooperate with your enemies anymore. Silence is not an alternative. Non-secular lack of awareness is not a choice. It's time to stroll in authority. This is your second. Do not miss it. July 10th is near. However you are toward your leap forward than your breakdown. Most effective if you obey now. Jesus is begging. Listen. God says, this isn't always something to put off. Now not something to disregard. Now not something to position aside for even one extra second. You need to hear this now, due to the fact something deeply serious is ready to spread, and heaven has been crying to your attention. Jesus himself is weeping and pleading, sure, for you. That is no normal day, and this isn't always a normal message. The date has been visible. The hour is written. July 10th holds something extremely critical. It isn't only a day at the calendar. It is a religious turning factor, a divine mark inside the heavens where your call, your destiny, and your life path intersect with a danger so deep, and but a miracle so near. You have been chosen to study this, no longer with the aid of accident, however by way of divine orchestration. There is a warning on this, sure, but additionally a safety. There's worry, yes, however additionally a defend of light. And also you should open your heart wide, for what's coming is either going to shake you or prevent, depending on whether you concentrate now. Jesus isn't speaking this lightly. He is not whispering anymore. He's crying loudly, desperately, because the pain that could come to you isn't essential if most effective you pay attention. There's something hidden on your environment, something so quiet you did not observe, yet it has been operating towards you. A lure, a plan, a postpone disguised as protection, and but even deeper than that could be a pressure, a person, a spirit, looking you. A person with a darkish goal in the direction of your soul, your thoughts, your progress. They have seen your mild, and they may be jealous. They have seen your future, and they are terrified of it. Because if you walk into what God has deliberate for you, their lies will fall, their mask will shatter, their plans will fail. They may be running speedy. They have given you faux peace, false silence, and distraction. However, heaven has intervened. God is shouting from the heavens today. You should listen this. He is calling your spirit, your heart, your future into the center of His protection. You should no longer stroll blindly into July 10th, without this divine message written for your soul. Jesus says, tell them I am weeping for them. Now not due to the fact I'm weak, however due to the fact they are being fooled. The enemy has planted a smooth lie to your lifestyles. It is diffused. It's disguised. It looks as if a peace, like a very good character, like a blessing, however it isn't always. It is a cover, a fog, a curtain over the deeper truth. However, God is pulling again the curtain now. God says, you aren't abandoned. You are not cursed. However, you are being warned because your existence is valuable. Something is coming, and you can't see it yet. But God sees it. And due to His fantastic love for you, He's going to not permit you to walk into it unprotected. But you need to do something first. You need to open your coronary heart and fully give up. You have to launch the human beings you're nonetheless keeping directly to, even though God has informed you to allow them to move. You must stroll away from the relationship you recognize is spiritually draining you. You should prevent the sample. This is killing your pleasure silently. And certainly, you must pray. Pray with urgency. Pray like Jesus is sitting beside you crying. Because Heaven is not distant on this moment. It is absolutely watching and fully engaged. The angels are hovering. Archangel Michael is on assignment. And yet, if you put off in listening, the forces set in opposition to you will move. It is why the message is critical. That is why Jesus is begging. You have been through loads. You have cried in silence. You've got smiled even as broken. You've helped others whilst feeling not noted yourself. But God noticed it all. None of it became wasted. But now, something extra important is taking place. The threat isn't always your beyond. The danger is what is drawing close on the 10th of July. There may be something spiritually charged about that day. Someone has spoken something towards you. They think you do not know. They suppose you are unaware of their true nature. However, God saw. And now, God is revealing. You're going to walk immediately into it. Into pain. Into confusion. Into put off. However, God is interrupting that plan right now. That's why you're right here. That's why you are reading this. Listen to the voice of God in your spirit. It is not the loudest voice, but it's far the maximum effective. It's been nudging you. It has been displaying you symptoms. It's been supplying you with dreams. You thought those desires had been random. But they were not. They were heaven whispering warnings and secrets. One of those dreams where a person known as your name, that wasn't a dream. That turned into an angel seeking to wake you up. The odd feeling you had last week when you walked into that room. That was no longer your creativeness. That became the Holy Spirit displaying you where no longer to head. And now this message is the final signal earlier than something heavy falls into area. However, it does not need to fall on you. God has made a manner out. It is invisible to most. It is hidden. But it is proper there, wrapped in obedience, tied in give up, and opened through prayer. That miracle you've been begging for, it is connected for your obedience on this moment. That breakthrough you notion could in no way come. It smiles actually at the door, waiting so one can flip the deal with through faith. Jesus says this once more, if they leave this unread, if they ignore this moment, they may cry a lot later. But in the event that they pay attention, the entirety will exchange. July 10th is a spiritual gate. At the back of it, for some, is disaster. For others, it's divine protection. For you, it depends in this second. What you pick out today. What you permit move of. What you run towards. What you stop doing. What you pick to believe. Due to the fact belief isn't always passive, it opens doorways. God continues to be inclined to rewrite what the enemy tried to schedule. But he cannot do it without you give up. Yes, your surrender. Forestall playing small. Prevent hiding your fact. Stop ignoring the calling in your lifestyles. Forestall awaiting others to agree within you. Stop letting fear communicate you out of destiny. You have a reason. There may be a cause you're nonetheless alive in any case that ache. There's a purpose the devil could not kill you. There's a motive you survived what others did not. Because your name is written in heaven's light. But if you overlook who you are now, the enemy will attempt to rename you in darkness. Jesus is interceding for you proper now. Jesus is interceding for you right now. He's praying for you. Believe that heaven's King on his knees, praying to the Father about you. You are not by myself. And what's coming cannot damage you if you stroll in God's education. But you have to act. You need to pray. You have to anoint your area. You have to forgive that person. You have to cut off that unhealthy tie. You need to cry if needed. But most of all, you should go back to God completely. Because there may be something big He's approximately to give you, but simplest in case you're spiritually organized. Something related to a letter. A name. A verbal exchange with a purpose to disclose someone's fact. A relocation. A monetary miracle. However earlier than the blessing, the spiritual war intensifies. It's why the caution is right here. The devil knows what God is ready to offer you. He is panicking. And he is the use of someone near attempt to blind you. A person you preserve defending. Someone you hold believing in. A person who keeps draining you. However, no extra. God says, sufficient. If you do not walk away, you'll cry. However, in case you obey now, everything will shift. Heaven is prepared. Angels are assigned. A guard of divine light is ready to surround you. However, you have to claim this with your mouth. God, I give up. I pick you over worry. Over lies. Over confusion. I choose fact. I select future. I pick your voice. Say it out loud. Say it even via tears. Say it even if you're afraid. Because God goes to guard you. This isn't the give up. That is the caution before the victory. July 10th will come. And when it does, if you listen these days, you will be covered. You may upward push. You may see why God will upward thrust. You may see why God sent this message. It turned into no longer fear. It became a love. And you may recall those words. Jesus cried for me. Because heaven still believes in me. Now it is your turn to believe too. Pray. Surrender. Obey. And watch the whole thing exchange. If you believe in God, type Amen.